The radio calls had ceased. A SEAL team trapped in a ravine, ammunition nearly exhausted, backs against solid rock. No escape routes remained. No aviator would risk that corridor again. Multiple attempts had been made. None returned for a second run. The communications went silent. Then from the forward operating base came a noise. Deep, mechanical, accelerating rapidly, slicing through the quiet. Not the sound of salvation, the sound of retribution. Turbines screamed across the ridgeline, rattling the heavens. Every soldier below froze, gazes rising, because they recognized that thunder. A single murmur shattered the stillness. She's returned. The radio crackled once, then broke into static. A voice pushed through, fracture by terrain. Neptune 4 contact north and east. 3 down. Request, then silence. Inside FOB Sentinel. Every head turned toward the communications table. The operator replayed the burst, volume maxed, but the words ended the same. Static, nothing else. Someone marked the grid on a wall map. It pointed to Sector 9, known to everyone as the kill box. The corridor erased drones, a scout helicopter, and an entire patrol. The tent went heavy. No one volunteered air cover. Everyone knew the Valley 8 aircraft. The colonel spoke without raising his voice. Anyone ever flown the kill box and lived. At first, silence pressed harder than the desert heat. Then a young intel officer swallowed and muttered, "There's one." All eyes snapped to him. Major Kira Vance, Havoc 7, 18 months ago. She cleared it solo. That name froze the tent. Her run had saved 9 men, but her aircraft nearly collapsed on landing and she was grounded. The colonel's jaw flexed. Status. The officer checked a roster. Temporarily restricted. Review never closed. 87 kilometers away, Camp Riverbend shimmered under morning haze. Vance sat on a dented bench near Hangar 9. Her gaze rested on a gray, A-10 parked half in shadow. Havoc 7 looked tired, panels unpainted, a patch of bare metal still scarred from the last mission. She wasn't clear to touch it. A mechanic walked past, grease on his sleeves. He didn't stop, just dropped 2 words like contraband. Sector 9. Vance stood immediately. No orders, no briefing. The word was enough. She crossed the tarmac with steady steps. Her suit wasn't zipped to regulation. She didn't care. Crew chiefs noticed, hesitated, then stepped aside. They remembered her canyon run. If she was climbing back and now, something mattered. She swung into the cockpit like she had never left. Switches flipped under practiced hands. Systems growled to life, reluctant but functional. Diagnostics scrolled across the display. Fuel at 71%. Hydraulics marginal. Flares questionable. Guns green. Good enough. Not perfect, but Havoc 7 would fly. The tower voice cut in. Havoc 7, you're not cleared. Identify. Vance ignored it. Engines roared higher. She released brakes and pushed throttle. The hog rolled forward, dragging a line of dust. Who the hell just took off? A controller shouted. The colonel watched the radar blip dive and vanish below detection. He'd seen that trick once before. Keep her frequency clear, he ordered. If she calls, you give her everything. No one argued. Above Camp Riverbend, Havoc 7 banked east. The sky looked calm, but Vance's mind tracked terrain lines burned into memory. Every bend, every crosswind pocket, every ridge where missiles waited. The kill box didn't kill with fire alone. It killed with silence. That was the warning she remembered most. She adjusted trim manually, ignoring the stiff feel of the yoke. Avionics lagged by half a second, but instinct filled the gap. This wasn't software flying. This was muscle and recall. The canyon entrance rose ahead. Steep rock walls cutting sunlight to slivers. Wind buffeted from cross angles, a current designed to flip unwary pilots. She dipped lower, trusting ground effect to hold her stable. Inside FOB Sentinel, voices clashed. Ground her now. She's in violation. She's their only chance. The colonel silenced them with one hand. He stared at the map, jaw set. Strike Team Neptune still breathing. That's enough. Meanwhile, Neptune 4 fought to hold out. Blood pooled dark under sandbags. A broken tripod with duct tape kept one scope aimed north. They were boxed in and ammo was running low. But then the spotter lifted his head, eyes squinting. A faint shape skimmed just above rock. "Wait," he whispered. The others froze, listening. Engines rolled across the valley like thunder under stone. Someone dared to speak. The words tasted like relief and disbelief in one breath. Above them, Havoc 7 knifed into the kill box. Wings wide, nose steady, no escort, no clearance, just Vance and a warplane built to take punishment. The corridor narrowed, only 240 feet wall to wall. Her proximity alarm shrieked. She killed it. She didn't need noise. She needed quiet focus. The engine screamed in defiance of the terrain. Shadows shifted along ridges. Figures ducked behind rock, preparing. She kept her hands firm on the throttle. Havoc 7 rattled, but obeyed. The kill box was ahead, waiting. Vance leaned forward in her seat, eyes locked on the canyon throat. If Neptune 4 was still alive, she would reach them. If the kill box wanted her again, it would have to try harder. The kill box swallowed Havoc 7 whole. Rock walls closed in until sunlight vanished. Every gust pressed sideways like a hand trying to shove her down. Major Kira Vance trimmed manually, muscle memory taking over. She flew at 195 feet, then dropped to 170. At 130, the canyon floor blurred beneath her. Proximity alarm screamed. She shut them off with a flick. Noise was useless here. Ahead, shadows moved along the ridges, figures hunched with tubes across their shoulders. Missile teams waiting for a heat signature. On the ground, Neptune 4 clung to a broken livestock shed. Sandbags leaned inward, blood soaking the dirt. A medic's hands slipped on a tourniquet, sweat stinging his eyes. The spotter's tripod was broken in half. He had duct-taped the legs together just to keep the scope upright. When the blur of wings cut the sky, he froze. "She's back," he breathed. The words spread through the team like oxygen. For the first time all day, heads lifted. Havoc 7 dove across the ridge at an angle. Vance squeezed the trigger once. The GAU-8 roared like a storm given shape. A line of fire shredded stone. Dust burst outward, swallowing silhouettes. The first ambush team vanished in a hail of smoke and debris. Vance didn't wait for confirmation. Her left screen flickered, warning bars flashing. Diagnostics scrolled. Flares offline. Fuel 38%. Left stabilizer unstable. She muttered once under her breath, then banked hard, pulling the hog tight along the canyon wall. Another cluster of fighters scrambled in the open. No lock-on, no software assist. She aimed with instinct, iron sights, and memory. The cannon barked again in short bursts. Figures tumbled into dust, weapons clattering against stone. The corridor opened slightly, just enough for Neptune 4 to move. Inside FOB Sentinel, the argument boiled. "She's violating every directive. Pull her out." She just cleared 2 kill zones in 90 seconds. The colonel didn't raise his voice. He signed his name across a single sheet. "Responsibility is mine. Keep her channel clear." Vance dipped Havoc 7 lower, engines howling. Each vibration felt heavier than the last, but the hogs still held together. "Neptune 4, this is Havoc 7, she said flat. "If you can move now." Extraction inbound. Her voice steadied the team like a steel rod through their spine. "Copy Havoc," Neptune 4 replied. "We've got 3 carried, 1 covering, distance 3.1 clicks." They began crawling out, hauling wounded through sand and stone. Above, Vance banked left and scanned. The eastern slope flared hot on her thermal. Movement hidden behind a boulder field. She rolled, wings nearly brushing leaves off the cliff edge. Her pass was so tight the fuselage scraped the air itself. Then she pulled the trigger again. Stone exploded outward. The ambush dissolved before they could reposition. Another path cleared. Her eyes flicked to the fuel gauge. It bled down to 34%. Still enough for 1 more run, maybe 2. In the command tent, a timer appeared on the wall. Rotary detach 45 inbound, 3 minutes to landing. It wasn't long, but it felt like forever. The colonel pointed once. Hold her comms open. No interruptions. Every operator obeyed. Vance climbed a fraction higher, not to escape, but to bait. She wanted the hidden launchers to expose themselves. Havoc 7 became the lure. The trap snapped. An infrared flash streaked upward from the western slope. A missile locked and rose fast. Vance didn't flinch. She rolled Havoc 7 into the curve of the canyon wall. Stone guided her line, masking heat. The missile lost lock, nose veering wide. It detonated in empty air, a bloom of fire against rock. Shockwaves slammed her fuselage, rattling bolts, but the hog kept flying. On the valley floor, Neptune 4 moved quicker now. Their boots dragged wounded men, grit in their teeth. Above them, they heard the engine scream again. For the first time, hope wasn't a word. It was sound, mechanical, and relentless, and it was fighting for them. Havoc 7 climbed in a wide arc above the valley. Her canopy rattled with strain, but Vance kept her eyes scanning. Something on the southern ridge didn't feel right. Thermal optics pulsed faintly. 3 hot signatures tucked into shadows. Too far for rifles. Their angle pointed higher, toward the flight corridor. Not at the SEALs, at the aircraft. The helicopters inbound. Vance's stomach tightened. Rotary Detach 45 was minutes away, heavy and slow. If those teams struck the fuel tanks, no one would survive. She pushed the throttle forward. Havoc 7 engaging South Ridge, she said into comms. No request for clearance, no pause for orders. The hog dropped into a shallow dive. Her cannon barked in short, sharp bursts. Stone shattered, scattering enemy silhouettes. 2 men broke left, 1 right, but 1 fired before Vance's rounds reached. A missile streaked upward, a bright white tail cutting the sky. Its lock wasn't on her. It aimed at the second Chinook, still circling in hold. The crew hadn't even seen it yet. Vance yanked the stick hard. Havoc 7 rolled, cutting across the valley. She dove directly into the missile's path. The lock shifted. Heat seekers snapped to her engines. The warhead hunted her now. Havoc 7, break off, a controller shouted. She didn't answer. She was already committed. The hog howled through the kill box at full throttle. Alarms blinked red across her panel. The missile screamed behind, closing fast. Vance dropped lower. Altitude scraped at 115 feet. Every ridge loomed like a guillotine. The canyon curved left, then right. She rode the contours, each maneuver bleeding speed. The missile kept gaining. Fuel dipped to 26%. Her left stabilizer bucked, threatening to shear. She gritted her teeth and held. The command tent went silent. Operators watched telemetry dive into red. No one dared to speak. Come on, the colonel muttered. She knows this valley better than anyone. But his eyes never left the map. Vance lined Havoc 7 straight at a rock face. The missile roared closer, second behind. She waited until stone filled the canopy, then pulled vertical with everything left. The hog clear by meters. The missile didn't. It slammed into the cliff with a violent detonation. A 15-meter crater ripped into the rock wall. Shrapnel flared outward, swallowed by dust. Shockwaves threw Havoc 7 sideways. Her engines coughed, one sputtering. She fought the stick, dragging the hog level. She exhaled once, steady and sharp. Still flying, still alive. Below, Neptune 4 stumbled into open ground. They reached the landing zone. 3 men carrying a stretcher. 1 stayed behind, firing bursts to cover their retreat. The first Chinook hovered low, blades cutting a storm from the dust. Crew chiefs shouted, waving the team aboard. Wounded were lifted inside. The second helicopter hung back in a defensive circle. Its pilots scanned instruments, searching for threats. They had no idea Vance had just pulled death off their backs. From the sky, she circled wide. Neptune 4, this is Havoc 7. You've got 3 minutes. I'll keep the sky clean. Her voice cut through the static like steel. Copy Havoc, the SEAL leader replied. You already did. Then his team pushed the last man onto the bird. Havoc 7 rolled again, engine straining. Every bolt in the frame felt loose, but Vance refused to leave the valley until the birds were gone. Dust swirled into clouds around the landing zone. Rotor wash pulled grit into choking spirals, but one by one, the helicopters lifted. Vance banked deliberately above them. Not fast, not hidden. She wanted the fighters below to see her. The Hog's shadow stretched across the ridge. Every ambusher left alive knew what it meant. Air superiority had returned, and it had a name. For the first time in hours, the canyon fell still. Not the silence of a trap, the silence that follows a storm. Havoc 7 limped back across the ridge. Hydraulics whined. Altimeter flickered. One wing showed micro-fractures, but the Hog stayed in the air long enough to see the valley fade behind. She was exactly where she was supposed to be.